What's up everyone, my name is Austin Rutherford and welcome to my channel where we talk all things business, finance, and real estate. So this deal that I'm going to be talking about in this video was my most profitable deal ever, and the crazy thing, it wasn't even on purpose. It was kind of an accident on how it all came together, but my biggest lesson learned from all this is just being in the game. When you're in the game, you have an opportunity to hit home runs. So at the time when I bought this property, I was already flipping a ton of houses. Flipped over 100 houses already at that point. I had this idea about buying vacant land. So there's an area, there are a lot of flips going on, but there's a lot of random land within that nobody was doing anything with. So I was like, let me go buy all that land and see what I can do with it. So I ended up coming across this parcel and I bought it for $3,300. And this is after it was listed for almost a year online for like $8,000 that nobody bought it for. So I ended up coming across it and bought it for $3,300. And when I bought it, I didn't have any immediate plans for the future to build on it or anything like that. You know, I just saw an opportunity in the space where I could go out and buy a bunch of lots for $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a piece and then ride the wave up as the market continues to go up. So I owned a bunch of lots and I didn't have it, you know, I was thinking about building something, but it wasn't like ongoing. I did end up building a couple of them, but there was a lot of lots that were just sitting there with no plans. And at the time I was house hacking at a different property around the corner. It was a duplex. I was living in half of it and renting the other half out. And I woke up one day and I was like, man, like, I want to build a house. Like, I want to build a house for me, right? You know, I've built one before and sold it, but like I want to build a house for me to live in. So I called some of my builders, and before this, I was like dreaming about my dream house, right? You know, I wanted a 3-car garage, I wanted a hot tub, like all these things. And I was thinking about it in my head and I was like, I'm gonna build my dream house. The catch was, I was only 24 years old at this point. So I was about to build a custom house, dream house for myself at 24 years old. I bought this house for $3,300. I ended up running the construction for about $350,000 in the construction cost on this house. Including other costs, I was all in for around $400,000 on this property. Here's some videos of while I was doing the construction on the property.
Moving days tomorrow, baby. Gonna be in the new crib. June 16th is the housewarming party. For those who ask about the garage door, just cause I wanted it. Next week, we're gonna have a 3-car garage, a fire pit, a hot tub, a basketball court, open up the garage door for the party, some speakers for the welcoming party. Hope to see y'all here.
As I said in that video, I did end up having a housewarming party and invited a bunch of friends over. Look, this ended up being a 2,800 square foot house, 4-bed, 3.5 bathroom, a 3-car garage, a basketball hoop out back where we went out and got some buckets in. I had a hot tub out back. I had a weight room in the basement. It was full, huge open concept in the entire first floor. I had a garage door on the back of the house, so when we had friends over, we literally just clicked the button and the whole back of the house opens up. We had speakers in the ceiling of every single room in the entire house. Listen, it was everything that I ended up wanting. And even on this property, when I ended up refinancing it with a bank and moving into it, I even house hacked this house. So the duplex I was living in previously, I was house hacking it. I rented out a half of it, and then I was living in one and rented out a couple rooms to my friends. So I moved out of that duplex. I then rented that duplex to somebody else entirely, moved into this property. My friends came with me and they were paying rent to be in the property as well. Now, this didn't cover my entire mortgage because this was a single family house and I built it for myself. It wasn't an investment, but some of that money definitely helped pay a little bit of the mortgage. And it was two of my best friends. My payment was about $2,400 a month and they were each paying $500 a month. So like I said, I wasn't living for free in an ideal house hack, but I was making a little bit of extra money and I was living with some of my best friends. And while I lived here, I absolutely loved it. Some of the best memories. Had some friends, had some parties, had some get-togethers. You know, I remember adopting families for Christmas, single mothers with kids. We would adopt them for Christmas, buy them a whole bunch of toys. Here's a couple videos of us doing that. We would do back-to-school backpack giveaways for kids in the neighborhood. So when school came around, we got backpacks and supplies and basketballs and all this stuff, and we would give them away for the students, for kids. In the neighborhood when the school came back around. My girlfriend ended up moving in with me at that house. Funny story. So I was directing the U-Haul. I was telling them where to park. So we got to the house. It took me like maybe 60 seconds to tell them where to park. And I walked inside. And when I walked inside, all the stuff was already taken off the wall. I had a whole bunch of like motivational posters everywhere. And as soon as I walked in the house, it was all taken off. We ended up selling a bunch of my furniture, bringing all her furniture in. My house was a bachelor pad at the time. It was like all black everything and just motivation everywhere. And that didn't fit that well with my now fiance. But funny story, literally before I even walked in the house, all the pictures were off the wall. And we were living there for a few years. But what happened was we ended up deciding and wanting to move to South Florida, which you can see in the background right here. So when we moved from like a 3,000 square foot house into an apartment because we don't know anything about Florida. We wanted to come down here and learn the market first. So we ended up renting an apartment here. So we had a decision to make. We can't bring all the furniture because it physically won't fit in the unit. So we were thinking, we're like, man, like let's take what we want, enough for the apartment, and then let's leave the furniture back in the house and then turn the house into an Airbnb. And I knew the area was still growing, so I didn't want to sell the house yet because I knew there was still room for the values to go up. So we ended up Airbnb-ing it, and on one of our best months, we ended up making $11,000 in income on one house. Remember, my mortgage payment is about $2,400 a month, so it was an amazing performing rental property. And we did that for a while, made a ton of money from it, and we ended up selling that property because we want to buy primary residence down here in Florida, which we're currently in the process of looking. We're trying to buy a house down here in Florida. So when we sold it, we ended up listing the property for $700,000, which was already pretty high in the market down there. And we ended up selling it for $765,000. We actually had two offers, both at $765,000, full appraisal gap coverage, and we had two of them. It was crazy. But ended up selling the property at $765,000, making over $300,000 on the sale of that property on top of the monthly income that we had from the Airbnb from the 1 to 2 years prior to that. None of this was ever part of the plan. Like I bought the land because I saw an opportunity. We were probably going to build a new construction house and sell it at one point. Then I was like, let's do a personal house. So we built new construction and I moved into it. Then my buddies moved into it. Then my girlfriend moved into it. My buddies moved out at that point. Then we did Airbnb, and then we ended up selling it. None of that was planned. We just kind of did it as life happened, as things in life came up. And it ended up being one of my most profitable investments ever in my career. And I flipped and wholesaled hundreds and hundreds of houses. And this deal was one of the best of them. And like I said at the beginning of this video, one of my biggest lessons learned about this is to simply be in the game. If you don't own anything, you never have an opportunity for anything like this. You know, there's a lot of other properties that I bought. I bought a duplex for $160,000. 4 years later, I sold it for $365,000. So I made 200 grand just by owning a piece of real estate. If I never owned the asset, I never would have had that on the table. So the biggest takeaway for me is to be in the game. When you own things, when you have assets, when you have equity, when you can move money around, you can do a lot more things with life. So get in the game, take action. If you want to learn exactly how to take action today, even if you're broke, even if you don't have credit, check out this video up here and I'll break it down step by step exactly how you can get started today. So smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, drop any comments you have below, hit that subscribe and notification bell so you can get all this content going forward. As always, appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one.